Hello friends. So in this session, we are going to discuss about the first aid topic under the industrial hygiene and occupational health. So what exactly the first aid is, the principle, the purpose, the different responsibilities and qualities which is involved under the first aider role, then different fundamentals or the concept under the first aid, that is thermal burns, chemical burns, fracture, fainting, shock, insects, animal bites, suffocation, toxic ingestion, artificial respiratory, CPR techniques, victim transportation, and rescue techniques and first aid box contents. So we will discuss all these points one by one. So what exactly the first aid is? So the first aid has measures to be taken immediately after an accident, not with an idea to be cured, but in order to prevent further harm being done. So first aid is the measure to be taken immediately. It is not a treatment. It is not to cure a complete disease or complete part of your body, but it is an immediate action which is to be taken immediately after an accident to prevent a further harm, right? So it uses the available human and material resources at the site of accident to provide initial care to the victim of injury or sudden illness until more advanced care is provided. So before reaching the ambulance, before reaching the particular victim to the clinic or hospitals, so whatever the measures we have to taken, that is nothing but the first aid. So to provide the initial care to the victim of that injury, that is nothing but the first aid. The first aid has 5 main aims: to preserve life, to promote our assist recovery, to prevent worsening or aggravation of the casualty conditions, to minimize complications, and to arrange transportation to hospital if necessary. So these are the different main aims of this first aid is. So the protection of that particular human being or victim of injury, that is one of the main aim, to preserve the life, to promote or to assist that particular person for the recovery from that injury, then to avoid the worsening cases, to avoid the casualties or fatalities. This first aid can be provide or helps to avoid these types of deaths, then to minimize the complications in the injury, and to arrange the transportation, that is the ambulance or other vehicles for transporting that victim to the hospital. So these are the main 5 aims of the first aid. What is the purpose of this first aid? To sustain the life, to prevent suffering secondary complications, and to promote speedy recovery. So sometimes the time is a main factor where you can save the life of that person by giving the first aid treatment, and sometimes it happens that due to this first aid treatment only, the main period of that particular treatment, whatever the requirement in that injury is completed, and then the hospitals, the clinics, and the doctor's team can taken care of all the complete treatment of that victim. The principle of the first aid, the preserve life, that is also the main of the aim of the first aid. Then airway, breathing, circulation. So these are the different points which may cover under this preserve life. So sometimes it happens that due to the chemical inhalation, due to the oxygen deficient atmosphere, these points may be covered, that is breathing problem may be there due to some wrong gesture and posture or due to sleepage of that person, airway may be blocked, and the circulation of the air, or it is also called as ventilation, is, if not proper, then also the problem may arise. So to avoid these types of problems and to treat that particular victim for preserving his or her life, we must go for the first aid treatment. Then prevent deterioration. So the stop bleeding, sometimes the knife cutting edges, some speedy machineries may cut a body part of a victim, and for that purpose, to stop that bleeding, we have to go for the first treatment. Sometimes electrical shocks or electrical hazards also happen. So to treat that shock, first aid is necessary, and to treat other types of injuries also, first aid is essential. Then promote recovery is another principle of this first aid. So reassurance, then reliance pain, release from the pain, handle with care, and protect from harm. So these are the different elements which can be covered under the promoting the recovery of that person from that injury, from that disease, or from that illness. So the all the things are depends on the condition, what type of injury is there, what exactly the victim is going to do, and what support system is available in that department. So on that basis, this recovery can be possible in a faster way. Then the person who is going to give the first aid treatment is called as first aid aider. These first aider are the trained persons from the first aid department, that may be from the occupational health center, that may be from the other medical emergency departments, or some specialized department. But some private agencies and private companies are also doing these trainings or conducting these trainings. That is, after this completing the training, the person is called as first aider. So the first aider is the responsible person to give the first aid treatment for the victims of the injuries. Then bridges, fills the gap between the patients and the doctor. So before reaching to the doctor, before reaching to the hospital, the measures which we are going to take and the measures which can give by that person is called as first aider. So the main responsibility of that first aider to bridge the gap between the patients and the doctor, ensure safety of himself or herself and that of bystanders. So to take care, to prevent the other incidents or accident due to the victim, we have to take care about their safety, then gain access to the victim. So reach as soon as possible to the victim, that is the main responsibility of this first aider. Determine any threats to patient's life. So first aider should determine the possible threats and the treatment time as far as the patient is concerned. Then summon advanced medical care as needed. Then provide needed care for the patients. So that may be a CPR treatment, that may be a bandage treatment, that may be to stop the bleeding treatment, etc. So there are different examples where we have to reach to the patient as soon as possible to prevent the bleeding, to prevent the respiratory tract issues, to prevent the continuous supply of oxygen to that person, etc. Then record all the findings and care to the patient. So we have to take care of all the parameters which we have observed, that is observed by that first aider, and then all these observations should be communicated to the doctor after reaching to the hospital for better and quick treatment. So these are the different roles and responsibilities of the first aider. What are the qualities of this first aider is? The first aider should observe carefully, think clearly, and act quickly. So all these things are simultaneous and in a faster way. He should be calm and confident about the treatment, about the observations. He should ask someone to call a doctor or to inform the hospitals immediately, giving some details of the cases involved. So whatever the observations in the initial stage, that observation should be communicated to the hospital, to the doctor in a short time period, so that that particular doctor or the hospital can give the help to that victim in that proper way. The first aider must possess right knowledge and skill on first aid, must be quick in taking decisions and in action, must be calm, confident and keen observer, must be empathetic and not sympathetic. So all these skills are needed by this first aider to solve the majority of these issues or to complete the first aid treatment process before reaching the hospital. So these are some of the qualities of the first aider. Now, what are the fundamentals of the first aid is? So there are different concepts like thermal burns. So what is thermal burns? So immediately for at least 10 minutes for all burns except electricity, immerse the site in cold water to reduce the pain and automatically minimize the tissue damage. So there are different degrees of these thermal burns. So thermal means heat. So due to heat, that may be due to the surface temperature, that may be due to the direct burning process or incineration process or some other process. So whatever may be the reason, if there is a burning of the skin due to the heat or due to the fire, then it is called as thermal burns. And to avoid the third degree burns, third degree damage, we have to take care that we must immediately go for the to reach to the cold water source and continuously supply this cold water for at least 10 to 15 minutes. Then water temperature not less than 8 degrees Celsius, because again there are chances of cold burn. So to avoid that, the normal temperature range should be there. So that is normal temperature should be uh, there for washing that particular thermal burns. Don't use this ice because it may further damage the injured skin. So we are not going to maintain the temperature of water less than 8 degrees Celsius. We are not going to use this ice for this thermal burns. So normal temperature water should be used. If the area of the burn is large, after it has been dosed with cool water, apply clean wraps about the burn area or the whole patient to prevent systematic heat loss and hypothermia. So it may be the case that there are chances of heat losses from the body and there are chances of hypothermia. For that purpose, we have to insulate that particular thermal burn or injury or that area with the help of clean wraps, and that is the secondary method after washing that thermal burns for 10 minutes with the help of the normal water. Then there is another term, that is fracture. So we know the fracture cases. So what is the first aid treatment for these fractures? The limb affected must be immobilized. So we have to avoid the movement of that particular body part or that limb where the fracture is occurred. This is especially important during the transportation of the patient, because normally the quick reaction is by the employees as to transport that victim to the hospitals with the help of the ambulance, and while transporting this may be the case where this mobilization of that particular limb where the fracture occurs may be damaged. So more damage may be possible due to the mobilizations. So we have to avoid this mobility or flexibility or the movement of that particular limb where the fracture is occur. The bone fragment should be tied so that they can be moved. So the fragment or that particular area should be tied to avoid the movement. The rules for immobilizing fracture should be observed. So we have to take the training of that particular immobilization procedure or the bandage activity or the fracture activity. If they are not observed, grave complications can develop, menacing the patient life. So to avoid the further complications during the treatment, we have to observe carefully. We must know the exact process of tying this bandage to that particular part or the limb where the fracture is occurred. Then there is another term that is called as fainting, right? So that is unconsciousness, that is normally called as fainting in the medical term. The medical term for fainting is syncofainting, is a sudden loss of consciousness, usually temporary and typically caused by a lack of oxygen in the brain. So generally, we have talked about this oxygen deficient atmosphere. So normally, the 21 to 23% or by the volume percent, it is 29% oxygen is required as per as a normal human being and normal temperature and pressure conditions are concerned. So if the oxygen level is below 29, then there may be a issue of suffocation or asphyxiation, and if it is less than 23 or 21, then it become a critical case, and then it is a case of fainting. So consciousness may loss by that victim due to the oxygen deficient atmosphere, and that is why we must go for the first aid treatment for this fainting. So these are the different steps which are involved under this fainting, which is shown in the picture. So the movement of that particular victim is like this, that is lying on the floor, that is flat floor. Then we should put some things to raise the legs on that particular thing, to support that legs, because it supports us for the proper blood circulations, right? Then after this movement, you can check the neck movement, you can clear the respiratory tract, and then you can call to the emergency numbers or local authority for the further treatment. So basically, we are going to avoid the respiration track movement or the oxygen supply, and then we are also taking care about the blood circulation in the body. So these are the main two things as a fainting first aid treatments, and after that the doctor will verify what exactly has happened. Then there is another term that is called as shock. So normally shock is nothing but the electrical shock. It is one type of electrical hazard. So what is the first aid treatment for this shock, electrical shock? So lay down the patient on his back, lower head end, then stop bleeding if any, stop pain in burns by pouring cold water, relieve pain by supporting injured parts, then keep the patient comfortable but not hot, do not cause sweating, make the air passage clear and clean, and fluids may be given in small amounts unless the patient is nauseated or unconscious, likely to be operated on, or has an abdominal wound. So reassure and cheer up the patients. So normally there may be a chances of blood circulation issue, there may be a chances of oxygen issue, there may be a chances of some water insufficient. So these are the different issues. So that may be related to the availability of water in the body, that may be related to the blood circulation in the body, and that may be related to the oxygen or respiratory system tract. So all these things should be taken care in the first aid treatment of this shock. Then there is another parameter, that is dog bite. So wash the wound immediately with water or Dettol. Then don't try to stop bleeding. Cover the wound with a sterile dressing and send the patient to the hospital immediately. So watch the dog for days because we have to observe what are the different behavior or misbehavior by the dog, or if any changes in the dog's behavior after biting. So we have to observe and communicate it to the doctors, because on the basis of that the treatment may differ. Then snake bite may be a case, especially it may be a case in isolated areas, because snakes are available in the isolated areas or where the disturbances are not there. So what is the treatment after snake bite? So advise patient not to panic and run. Without delay, tie band or handkerchief tightly to that 2 to 4 inches above the button parts, so to avoid the circulation of that particular poison which is due to the snake bite. So to avoid or to stop that circulation of the poison in the throughout body, we have to tie a band or handkerchief tightly 2 to 4 inches above the button parts. However, you should feel pulse below the bitten part and lower the bitten part below the heart. So uh, don't be panic if you observe the pulse rate difference in as per as the normal pulse rate is concerned, because this snake bite there may be some changes in the blood pressure, and due to this blood pressure changes there may be changes in the heart rates or pulse rate. Then wash the bitten part with clean water, examine the pulse and respiration, carry the patient to hospital for anti-snake venom injections. So it is called as antidotes. So normally these antidotes are available in the civil hospitals and in some of the occupational health center or clinic nearby the industry, where these snake bites are the having a frequency more than a general snake bite cases. So if it is the case, then the antidote should be available in the occupational health center or the clinic in the industry itself. If possible, cut at the wound with a snake bite insects, knife or sharp instruments to allow free bleeding. So in this case, in the dog bite as well as in the snake bite, we don't want to stop the bleeding. Now in this case, we are going to allow a body part for the free bleeding, because this process avoid the circulation of the poison throughout the body, right? So we are going to avoid the circulation of the poison with the help of the blood throughout the body. Then there is a chances of suffocation. So suffocation is the initial state where the oxygen is not available in the sufficient amount. So due to that, suffocation may occur. Sometimes it is the case of nitrogen cylinder storage. Sometimes it is the case of welding department, or where the repair and maintenance is going on, and due to the welding or cutting fumes or dust, suffocation may occur. So what is the first aid treatment for the suffocation? Remove the patient from the source of danger. Make a rapid examination to ensure that the air passage are free and to clean them if necessary. So air passage, respiratory tract and oxygen supply, that is the main thing where we can avoid the further complications in the respiratory systems. So restore natural breathing by artificial respiration if breathing has ceased. So in case if temporary breathing has ceased, we have to shift that victim to the natural atmosphere where the plenty of amount of oxygen or clean air is available. So with the help of quick treatment or quick shifting of that victim to the open area, this breathing which is ceased maybe a temporary attack, and then it become a normal respiration systems. So that depends on the condition. Then toxic ingestion, that may be one of the case where through the foods, through the water, or through other types of food material, there may be a chances of uh, toxic contamination and toxic ingestion to your body. So sometimes it happens that in the nails or on the hair or on the part, any part of the body, contamination of these toxic chemicals can happen, and due to this, the toxic ingestion may be a issue. So what is the first aid treatment if the toxic ingestion is the case? Wash hands with soap and water, because generally most of the chemicals can neutralize with the help of soap and plenty amount of water. Then use diluted antiseptic like diluted Dettol. Then cover the wound with sterilized bandages or clean cloth, and do not tighten the bandage excessively. Don't apply haldi, lime, etc. on wound, because before applying all these things, we must know what exactly the toxic chemical is, and on the basis of the properties or characteristics of these toxic chemicals, or with reference to the nature of that toxic chemicals, we have to apply a proper medicine on that wound, right? So that is the first aid treatment for this toxic ingestion. Then there may be chances of bleeding wounds and bandaging. So what is the first aid treatment for these bleeding wounds? A dressing, that is nothing but where the bleeding is occur. A dressing wound is protective covering applied to a wound to prevent the infection, because in the air, in the surrounding, there are different types of bacteria available, and in the case of these wounds, there may be a chances of infection, and to prevent this infection, we must go for the dressing. Then absorb discharge, control bleeding, and avoid further injury. So these are the simple steps for the first aid treatment of the wounds. An effective bleeding wound should be sterile, germ-free, because I have already told you that different bacteria are available in the air. Sometimes some bacteria are positive and some bacteria are negative. So for killing these negative bacteria, that is called as germs generally. For that purpose, we have to sterilize the equipments or instruments which is going to use for the dressing purpose. Then bandages are of two types, that is triangular and roller bandages, and bandages should not be too loose or too tight. Bluish body part or loss of sensation indicates too much tightening. So the blood circulation should be in a normal condition. That is the simple way of bandaging this, right? So if you do the bandages that is too loose case, then there may be chances of infection through that space, and if you are going to tight the bandage at a higher side, then there may be a chances of improper blood circulation in that particular body part. So optimum tightness should be observed by the first aider for these bandages. Then there may be a chances where this CPR technique should be adopted for that case. So what exactly CPR is? Cardiopulmonary resuscitation. So what is this? Cardiopulmonary means this is reference to the heart, this is reference to the lungs, right? So it is an emergency procedure that combines chest compressions, often with artificial ventilation, in an effort to manually preserve intact brain functions until further measures are taken to restore the spontaneous blood circulation and breathing in a person who is in the cardiac arrest. So it is nothing but a cardiac arrest. So that may be a temporary conditions, and for that purpose we have to apply these CPR steps, right? So the first step is to call the emergency number or the local authorities who can help you for this type of situation. Then after that, in the second step, lay the person on their back and open their airways. So this is the case. So the first step is lay down that person on the flat surface or on the ground itself, and you have to check whether the air pass is open or not. If it is not the case, then you have to open that airways. Then if they are not breathing, you have to check whether the breathing is going on or not. If it is not the case, then start CPR. So at least 25 to 30 chest compressions, which is shown in this photo. So that should be done in the first step. And then if it is not sufficient, then you have to do the rescue breathing with the help of mouth and nose. Then repeat the same process until the ambulance is going to reach. If it is the instrument which is called as AED is available, or if it is AED is going to arrive, then you can stop the repetition of this CPR technique. Otherwise, you have to continue this technique unless and until the emergency helps is going to reach. So this is CPR technique. Then these are the photographs where you can understand what exactly you have to do in the CPR. So hand placement positions. So this is shown in the diagram like this. So both the hands interlock between the nipples, then one hand between the nipples and two fingers. So that depends on the age group of that person. So if the adults are there, then this is the condition. If children's 1 to 8, and if it is infants less than 1 year, then this is the chest compression method with the help of the fingers only. Now it is going to press down on the chest for 2 inches for the adults as well as for the children from 1 to 8 years, and for the infants it is only for the 1.5 inches. So 30 compressions are recommended by the standard agencies, and 100 and 120 compressions per minute is allowed for the chest to recoil between the compressions, immediately follow the rescue breaths. So that is depends on the condition, and these guidelines are should be followed by the person that is first aided for the CPR techniques. Now in case if it happens that the person is unconscious, or person or that victim is in a condition that he or she is not going to walk, or unable to walk, unable to run from that particular area, then we have to transport that victim or rescue that victim from that particular area. So what are the techniques available to transport or rescue the victim from that area? So there are various methods to drag and carry the victim from the area, and that is shown in the different slides. So these are the different uh, methods available, that is tied hands crawling technique, one person arm carry, one person pack strap carry, firefighters carry, two-person drag, that is human crutch, then two-person carry by arms and legs, then chair carry, then ankle pull, shoulder pull, blanket drag, two-handed seat, four-handed seat, three-person carry, remote downstairs, making improvisation, stretchers, shirts, blankets, ropes, etc. So these are the different techniques or the methods through which we can carry that victim, we can drag that victim, and we can transport that victim to a safe area from the incident or accident, right? So we can understand these types of technique with the help of the actual or the pictures, so that we can understand what exactly this technique is. Now this is the first technique, that is tied hands crawl. So from that picture itself, you can understand what exactly the position is and how we can carry that victim or drag that victim with the help of our strength, and we can transport this victim from that accidental place. Then from this picture, you can understand what exactly the crawling technique is. So with the help of this triangular bandage, a torn shirt, to tie the casualty's hands together and place them around your neck. This way you can move a person much heavier than yourself. So you can drag and carry a victim which is having a higher weight than you. So with the help of this technique, you are having a potential to drag and carry that victim, and you can transport easily that victim from the accidental place. Then this diagram or picture clearly shows you that what exactly the one person arm carry. So you can lift that victim safely by arm carry, and you can transport that victim to the safest place. Then one person back strap carry. This method is better for longer distances to lift a victim safely. So if the safe distance is longer than the usual distance, then you should go for the one person back strap carry method. So from this picture, you can understand what exactly the one person back strap carry is. Then firefighters carry. So in case of fire accident, especially in case of chances of suffocation, you have to carry that victim by this technique that is called as firefighters carry, right? So from this picture again, you can understand what exactly the firefighters carry is. Then there is another method, that is human crutch, two persons drag. If the manpower is available, then you can go for the two persons drag. So with the help of two persons strength, you can lock the arms of that victim with the help of the two persons, and you can shift the weight of that victim also, and then you can transport this victim with the help of two persons to the safest location. It is specially used when there is a chances of unconsciousness victim. So depending on the condition of that victim, depending on the condition of accidents, you can select a appropriate method. Then this is a method that is called as two person carry by arms and by legs. So rescuer one squats at the victim's head and grabs the victim from behind at the midsection, and rescuer two squats between the victim's knees, grasping the outside of the knees. Both rescuer rise to a standing position. So you can easily divide the weight of that victim with the help of two persons, and in this way we can transport the victim for a longer distance at the safest location. Then sometimes it requires that chairs carry method should be adopted, because sometimes there are restrictions for the movement of the legs, movement of a particular body part or the limbs of that victim, to avoid the further complications, and then you can adopt this method that is called as chairs carry. So we are going to use the chair for that victim, and you can divide the weight of that victim with the help of two persons. Then this is the ankle pull. So the ankle pull is the fastest method for moving a victim short distance over a smooth surface. This is not a preferred method for patient movement. In case if it is a case of suffocation, if it is a case of asphyxiation or oxygen deficient atmosphere and some unconsciousness may be impact due to the oxygen deficient atmosphere, then you have to shift that particular victim in a faster way within seconds, and then you can go for this ankle pull method. If it is a fracture case, if it is a burn case, or if it is a major injury case, then this ankle pull method is should be avoided. So we can go for the other methods. Then shoulder pull is also another method which is available to shift the victim for a shorter distance. It is preferred to the ankle pull. It supports the head of the victim, that is the main case, and that is why this is preferred as compared to the ankle pull, because we are going to protect the head of that victim. The negative is that it requires the rescuer to bend over at the waist while pulling. So this position clearly indicates the bending movement of the first aider or the person who is going to carry that victim. So this gives you the more stresses on your body, in your body, and that is why this shoulder pull can be adopted for a shorter distance again. Then you can adopt the blanket drag. This is a preferred method for dragging a victim from confined spaces. So if more than one persons are not available to drag and carry the victim, then if you are only one person, then you can opt for this method, because this method is to protect the head. This method requires a less strength as compared to the ankle or shoulder pull methods. Then two-handed sit. If the persons are available for dragging and carrying the victims, then you can go for the two-handed sits. This technique is used for carrying a victim to the longer distances. This technique can support an unconscious victim also, because in this method the two hands of both the rescuer are going to lock by their own, and due to this locking arrangement the victim is safe in their hands, right? So you can go for the transport these victims for the longer distances also. Then there is another method available that is called as four-handed sits. So it is for carrying the conscious and alert victim. So if it is not a unconscious case victim, and if the victim is alert, then you can go for the four-handed sit method. And it is suitable for the moderate distances. It is not suitable for the long distances. The victim must be able to stand unsupported and hold themselves upright during the transport. Position the hands as indicated in the graph or in the picture. Lower the seat and allow the victim to sit. Lower the seat using your legs, not your back. When the victim is in the place, stand using your legs, keeping your back straight. So in this case, the rescuer are in a good position or in good gesture and posture, and even though with the good gesture and posture they can transport the victim in a safer way, right? So this is the four-handed seat arrangement. Then there is another method that is called as hammock carry. So three or more rescuers get on both sides of the victim. The strongest member is on the side with the fewest rescuers. So if the person from these three members is the stronger person, then he or she may be on one side and other two members on the other side. Reach under the victim and grasp one wrist on the opposite rescuer. The rescuers on the ends will only be able to grasp the wrist on the opposite rescuer. The rescuers with only one wrist grasp will use their free hands to support the victim's head and feet or legs. Then rescuers will then squat and lift the victim on the command of the person nearest the head, remembering to use proper lifting techniques. Because in case if the proper technique is not going to adopt, then there may be a chances of complications in the injury again. So in these cases, with the help of this picture, you can understand what exactly the proper technique of lifting is, and then you can adopt this hammock carry method for the transportation or rescuation of the victim. Then there is another method that is called as 3-person carry. So from this picture you can understand how to lift the victim with the help of this 3-person carry method and how to transport this victim, right? So this is the technique for lifting a patient into a bed or stretcher or for transporting the short distances. So this is the method suitable for short distances, especially used to transport the victim to the stretcher or to the ambulance. So each person kneels on the knee nearest the victim's feet. Then on the command of the person at the head, the rescuers lift the victim up and rest the victim on their knees. If the patient is being placed on a low stretcher or litter basket, on the command of the person at the head, the patient is placed down on the litter or stretcher. If the victim is to be placed on a high gurney or bed to be carried, at this point the rescuers will rotate the victim so that the victim is facing the rescuers, resting against the rescuer's chest. So we have to protect the head of that victim. We are also going to protect a particular injured part of that victim, and that is why we have to take care of these types of procedures in the 3-persons carry. So on the command of the persons at the head, all the rescuers will stand, and to walk all rescuers will start out on the same foot, walking in a line abreast. So all the things and the commands are given by the person at the head, right? So it is nothing but a leader in that case. Then there is another method, that is removal downstairs. So this is not a recommended process. This is not a recommended method, but wherever all other methods are not feasible, and if it is only option, then you can go for this removal downstairs case, right? Don't try this if you suspect head or spinal injuries or broken limbs. Use a mattress or a rug under the person if one is available. So depending on the condition only, you have to select appropriate methods. If there is no option, then and then only you can go for this removal downstairs cases. Then improvised stretcher. So in case of in the isolated places where the stretcher and ambulance is not going to reach within a short time period, then we have to go for the improvised stretcher techniques. So this technique requires 2 poles strong enough to support the victims, which are going to act as a stretcher, and that is why these poles or the pipes should be sufficiently strong. Then while the first rescuer is grasping the litter poles, the second rescuer pulls the shirt off the head of rescuer 1. All buttons should be button up with the possible exception of the collar and cuffs. The rescuers then reverse the procedure and switch sides, right? So with the help of these rescuer shirts and 2 poles, we can make a stretcher, and with the help of this stretcher, we can transport the victim. Then there is another method that is called as blanket stretcher. So we are going to use the blanket for preparing the stretcher. That is why it is called as blanket stretcher. So this technique again requires 2 poles as in the previous case, but now in this case, rather than the shirts of the rescuer, we are going to use a blanket. So place the blanket down on the ground, place one pole approximately 1 foot from the middle of the blanket, fold the short end of the blanket over the first pole, place the second pole approximately 18 inches or 2 feet from the first, and then fold both the halves of the blanket over the second pole. And in this way, we can make the stretcher with the help of 2 poles and blanket assembly. And then we can use this stretcher, that is blanket stretcher. Then there is another method which is available called as rope stretchers. So if the treatment is required or the immediate treatment is not required for the victim, then you can go for the rope stretcher if the blankets or shirts or some other things are not available to prepare or make the stretcher. So this method is suitable only when you are having a sufficient time to make this type of rope stretcher, right? So there are requirement of the rope having good length to prepare this type of rope stretcher. So you can understand from the picture itself that there is a locking arrangement in the rope itself, and there is a arrangement of the ropes in a such way that the victim can easily lie down on the rope stretcher and easily transport that victim from one place to another place. Now we have discussed about the first aid. We have discussed about the applications, some methods, some principles, and different methods available for the transport of the victim or the rescue from the victims. And now we must know what exactly the contents of the first aid is, right? So in the first aid part, the principles, then methods, some first aid treatment of a specific incidents, and then the victim transportation, stretcher arrangements, what are the emergency numbers, how to call the emergency number, etc. All we have discussed. And in the each and every department or in the company, first aid is the legal requirement, right? So what is the standard first aid box content should be? So it is a 24 small sterilized dressing, then 12 medium sized sterile dressing, 12 large size sterile dressings, 12 large size sterile burn dressing for the thermal burns, then 12 15-gram packets of sterilized cotton pool, then 1 200 ml bottle of Sentimide solutions, then 1 200 ml bottle of mercurochrome solutions, 1 120 ml bottle of Talvolite